this computer. Awesome. And we're set. Great.
All right.
So welcome back, everyone, to the Career Readiness video podcast, which I could talk today. Joy and I are excited to kick off this next episode with our special guest today. And then we'll be talking about cover letters and essential skills. We're super excited. Kaylan, if you want to take it away.
Yeah. So hi, everyone. My name's Kaylan Vrana. I am actually the campus recruiter for BKD in the Kansas City office. BKD is actually a public accounting firm. So we actually have 40 different offices nationwide. Kansas City is actually I do believe the largest. We kind of go toe to toe with our Indianapolis office. That one is also pretty big, but I think we're the biggest now. Just depends. But we are located in downtown Kansas City. So not too far from you guys. We just kind of overlook Power and Light. And we work with a lot of different clients that are more mid-market. So don't have a lot of Fortune 100 companies by any means that are our clients, but we do have a lot of more local and regional clients that we work with. And we, of course, do tax and audit. That's typically what I'm recruiting for right out of college and for internships. But we also do touch a lot of different not only just industries, but we also do financial planning, things like that. So any questions that you have, I would be the one that you would come to and be more than happy to help you out with that. So
great. And can you touch base a little bit about the culture at BKD and what it's like to work there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, COVID has definitely been a little bit different, as you can imagine. We've had to get really creative. We did our holiday party online. We did cookie decorating on Zoom earlier this year. So just definitely trying to figure out different ways there to keep the culture intact, because the culture is such a huge piece of public accounting, and especially at BKD. So just to kind of let you know, we have a very open door policy with our partners. For people that are interested in accounting, they may have heard, oh, you don't talk to partners, you never see partners, they're not in the office. That's not the case at BKD. We see partners all the time. All of our tax partners are in the office. Audit is in the office quite a bit. Again, open door policy. Our managing partner, her name is Rachel. I report directly to her. I meet with her every 2 weeks. And if I need her in between, she's right there. So I do think that our leadership, they're very, very visible. And I think that's really great. We do have a day at the K scheduled here in September. So that will be for everyone and their families. We do have a holiday party, so we're hoping to still have that as well. And then we also have what we call the SAS team. So it's the social committee. And so we are actually coming up with events all the time. Right now we have an Olympics event. We're giving away hundreds of dollars in gift cards for people that are choosing the correct gold and silver and bronze medals. So really just trying to get people involved. We kicked it off with a breakfast on the day of opening ceremonies. And then we're going to have like an ice cream truck come on the end day. So again, just little things like that. We've brought in a barista for a random Tuesday morning just to pick me up. So always trying to do something to bring everyone together. Everybody works really hard, but we also want to celebrate the times that we can just hang out. And that's a huge part of public accounting. Again, just kind of having that culture where you are working with your friends. So that's really what we're about at BKD, always trying to find another way to do something fun and exciting and bringing a lot of people in to get their perspectives while doing that. So the SAS committee is made up of a lot of different ages, a lot of different jobs, and we all bring those ideas together. So
I love that. It sounds like such a welcoming, fun environment to work in. And it makes me want to work there now.
So homey.
Yeah. Chelsea, you want to hit it off with a question?
Okay. So I feel like since we're talking about essential skills and cover letters, almost the natural place to start is with essential skills. So I want to kind of understand your perspective on, like, when I say essential skills, like, what comes to mind for you? Like, what does that really mean?
Yeah. So essential skills to me means kind of that basic, just kind of 3,000 or 30,000, not 3,000, 30,000 foot view of just what you're going to need to be in the working world. And then, of course, you have essential skills that are going to be more directed towards whatever career path you go in. So Excel is going to be an essential skill for accounting. However, Excel is not an essential skill for recruiting. So, there's definitely different skills, essential skills. You've got that 30,000 foot view where pretty much every job you have, you need to know X, Y, Z. And then you definitely can get more particular depending on what job you're going for with their skill set.
So in that notion, so you mentioned like Excel and of course the different things that go into different industries, but is there like different types of essential skills? Like you mentioned something that was more applied like Excel, but it's like there are other skills that can get folded into that?
So are you talking about kind of generally or more for just accounting?
Generally.
I would say
Generally,
more of
yeah.
like the softer skills.
Yeah, like soft
You'll
skills.
need to know.
Yeah,
versus
yeah,
Just
yeah,
human skills.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, and I've been a recruiter for a long time, not just in accounting too. So just to let you guys know that I'm not just an accounting recruiter. So, there are definitely things that I have seen in each place that I've recruited for. I think one thing that is huge is a positive attitude. Work. At the end of the day, we would all love to sit home with our dog or best friend and watch Netflix and get a paycheck, right? Everyone, or to travel and not have to go into an office and not have to do work. But work is work. We do want to like what we do. Some of us get to love what we do, but there's going to be days where it's just not going to be clicking for you. We all have those days. That's what makes it work. But having a positive attitude, looking at the positives, I think that is a huge, huge piece of being successful in any position that you take on, whether it's working down the street at a restaurant or being a huge executive. Having a positive outlook and a positive attitude is huge. A lot of changes has happened. I am not good with change. I'm very, very open with how I am not good with change. I like to be very planned out. I'm not good with last minute substitutions. But I've learned a lot about trying to maintain a positive attitude as those changes have come my way. I might not be the best at the change and adapting, but if I'm positive through that, it's definitely really helped me a lot to continue moving forward and still enjoy what I do. I just look at it very differently. And again, that kind of starts with that positive attitude and just being more thoughtful of the things that are going right, and the things that I can control. So that positive attitude piece is such a huge, and that's going to be for every position that you ever have. So
Yeah, that's interesting because I'm thinking about certain traits that you look for in a candidate that are just not trainable, right? You can train someone on the technical stuff, and I feel like positive attitude is one of them. I also think of someone who's disciplined and hardworking and has good ethics. Like those things are very hard to train. So what are some of those, are those certain components that you look for in candidates because you know they can't be trained, they're just innate in people?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Everyone that you mentioned. So integrity is such a huge piece in what I do now, even because of we're in accounting. And so if you try to do something, even the littlest bit of shady, it could be very, very bad. And so integrity is going to trump everything. It's actually one of our core values. And that is huge for accounting. It's probably huge in most places. But I do think having a good integrity, doing the right thing, doing right by people, our customers, depending on what the job is, I think that's huge. And you're very correct. There's a lot of things we just can't teach. It doesn't mean that everybody comes great at it. You definitely grow and you learn as your career progresses. But integrity is huge. And another thing you had mentioned is work ethic. It kind of depends on where we come from. We all have, different childhoods and different experiences. And sometimes people have a different work ethic. If you grew up on a farm and you had to wake up at 4 a.m. to help your family, out in the fields, that is going to be a work ethic that I will never understand. And so it's just very different than, depending on the experiences. You can't teach it, but it's definitely something that we look for in public accounting, especially because tax time it's no joke. and it can definitely wear you down. And so having a work ethic and wanting to see the job through is something that we want to make sure that our candidates have. So
Yeah, I love that. And I always think about that when, especially in an interview, when someone asks, why are you the best candidate? And I think bringing up those essential skills that I am a hard worker, I have great work ethic, and I have a positive attitude all the time. I think that really showcases a lot versus saying, I'm really good at Excel, right?
yeah, well, and bringing up those examples of why, because I think when you're in an interview, you can say all you need to, but what backs that up? So yes, I do have a good work ethic because I did grow up on a family farm. I was up at 4 a.m. before I went to school. So just bringing those examples and being prepared for those interviews with these kind of essential soft skills. I think another thing too is self-motivation. That's something that, again, you can't teach it. And sometimes it does have to do with, do you like your job? Some people get very unmotivated when they feel kind of stale in their career. So just making sure to be positive with what you're doing, and finding new ways to continue to grow. So then you will maintain that motivation within yourself.
And what would you say would be some tips that you could recommend for individuals trying to develop those essential skills? What are some proactive things that they could do?
Yeah. So, and this is something that I've started doing since I've been at BKD, because I do want to continue to grow. I love my job, but you can definitely see how everything is changing with recruiting. So I want to be ahead of that. So I have started reading books. I read a lot of articles about the changing environment. Obviously, we've got a new generation of students. We have 5 generations in the workplace right now. That is the first time in so long. And so you have a lot of different perspectives. And so I've been reading up on, what the top generation in the workforce finds important and what Gen Z finds important. Very, very different. But how can I be able to be kind of that middle and see both sides and try to get everyone to work together better? So I do a lot of reading, articles. You can get books depending again on your field. Another thing too is to find a mentor. My managing partner, she is also my mentor. I am a first-gen college student, graduate rather. And so I don't have anybody in my family that's in the business world. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm not really that professional, but I don't really know how to be more professional. So I have actually reached out to her and we talk, and I'm like, is there anything else that I could be doing better? Is there any way that I can be more professional in my approach here? And she and I have a very open conversation about what that looks like, what I can improve on. And so I think having a mentor that you can be very open and bring your whole self to a conversation to is very, very good in order to continue to grow those essential skills, soft skills in the workplace. And you'll be doing that until you retire. So
yeah. And you bring up such a great point, because we always tell students the importance of feedback. Just get as much feedback from your coworkers, your former supervisors, your mentors. It's so important. And a part of our class, we have students actually go and do that and interview their supervisors and get feedback on those skills. So I think that's such a valuable part of understanding who you are in yourself and where you are, and where to target your growth for those skills.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's not easy. Nobody wants to hear that they're not doing great at something.
Yeah.
That's just human nature. But I do think that when the sooner we can admit we're not perfect at our jobs, and there's always something to learn, help me be that, help me learn that, help me be better at my job, kind of laying it all out there. And taking that feedback is going to make you so much more successful. It is going to make you enjoy your job. It is going to make you, or it's going to help you continue to climb in your role as well. So yeah, not easy for sure. But again, it's where it's good to find a mentor that you can bring your whole self. And that's something we've been talking a lot about at work, at BKD, is bringing your whole self to work. We want to be professional, but we also know that we don't just have professional lives. we have lives outside of work, and sometimes things get sticky and sometimes things are wonderful and we want to share that stuff. So it's good to be able to have someone you can really go to, be your whole self, and continue to grow in your career.
And you mentioned you're reading a book. What are you currently reading right now, if you'd like to share?
So I'm not reading one currently. I do have one. I've been reading one. It's very popular. I've read several. There's one called Grit by Angela Duckworth.
Yes. I love that book.
So that book, we have definitely, I at my last position, we all had to read it. And so that was very, very eye-opening. She's extremely great motivational speaker. And she wrote an amazing book, obviously. So I think that's definitely a good one. It just kind of explains, again, kind of going in more to that work ethic and how grit, what grit looks like. And so that was my last one. I read Mark Manson's books. They're not very appropriate in the titling, but a lot of people, he's bestseller. A lot of people, actually my old boss gave me the book. So again, the title's not very appropriate to speak about, but it just talks about kind of getting out of your head a little bit and not taking everything so seriously. And so that maybe not a professional book necessarily, but I did think it was quite interesting that my boss gave it to me to, go ahead and say, hey, you have to have boundaries and you have to be able to say no. And not everything is going to be the most important thing at that moment. So I think that was something that I read several years ago that I've heard a lot of people have read. And so that one was, again, very interesting since it came from my boss. And again, very interesting, not as professional author, but a lot of people have read that book and I've heard really good things about it. So
cool. That's awesome. I have a lot of those books that also don't have appropriate titles, but they're great self-help books that just help you as a person in general, and you can always apply to work. So
yeah, absolutely. And again, I just think it's so funny when, your boss will give you something and you're like, but it definitely does help you balance work. And I think that's another thing people really struggle with. And that's an essential skill for sure. How do you balance work and life? We can't work 24/7 because you are eventually not going to be productive and you're not going to do good work. So I think that that's another thing. And that's, I think, why she gave me that book of just like, got to be able to manage it really well. And I struggle to do that. I overwork. I check my email too much. I work too many hours sometimes. Sometimes you got to cut it off. You got to take a day at the pool. You got to hang out with friends. So it's really nice to be able to kind of figure out those boundaries with work as well. The younger you can get it figured out, the more successful you will be.
Yeah, I think a lot of students do struggle with it because I know I've seen a few in my office that even just job searching because they're in a role that they are not excelling in and they just want more growth. They're like, I don't have time to do all this. And I was like, well, I mean, I can understand how it's just too much, but like, where are you maybe taking too much of a heavy lift that you need to pivot and relocate elsewhere? And a lot of students do struggle with that. And something else that I know that I've seen is, I mean, it's really important, like you said, to have that support system, locate those people that are going to really give you that honest feedback. So when students kind of take that into the perspective and synthesize that and go, okay, so now how do I communicate this to other people, especially like in my documents or in my interviewing, or like I said, the cover letter, like how do they take their skills and show, okay, this is why I'm the best?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think, I mean, the biggest thing again, in school is really hard too, because searching for a job is a full-time job, essentially. Interviewing, it is really difficult. I think that, again, while you guys are in school and trying to find those jobs, this is a really good time to really push yourself to figure out what those boundaries are. And, give yourself 2 hours a week outside of school, and then that's it. Set the timer. Definitely make sure that you're holding yourself accountable to give yourself that time. It sounds really ridiculous, and I definitely believe also too in paying your dues. I do believe in that for sure, but there also has to be a good balance of being able to take care of yourself as well, eating healthy, taking time to go on a walk, things like that. So I think that the sooner you guys can learn that, I think that in school is a very good time to do that, especially those last few years where you are starting to get internships and learning what that 40, 50-hour work week may look like, but still maintaining the time for your friends and your family and whatever else you enjoy doing outside of that.
Yeah, I noticed that even through my experiences, the first job that you ever have, your first professional job out of college, people have such a hard time with work-life balance. Even for me, I was all in 24/7, checking my emails at 3 a.m. And I was like, okay, what am I doing? This is not good for my mental health. So I think you're right, learning that early on when you start having those internships, going into junior, senior year to say, okay, I need to learn this skill so that I can be my best self going into work in my first role. So yeah, I see that as a common trend.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, work ethic is huge, very important, and paying your dues. I do believe in that, but to a point. Definitely have to make sure that you are putting your day-to-day needs as a priority as well.
So how do students kind of take all these things that they're learning and kind of, when they understand, okay, so maybe these are my strengths, these are the skills that I'm really good at, and then these are the ones that I need more growth and then I'm working at, but it's not to say that I can't necessarily do them. So how do they communicate that well to other people, whether it be like in an environment like this or like on in their cover letters and different interactions that way?
Yeah. So I think that we all eventually realize, okay, I struggle with this in my job. So I think, again, searching a lot of different articles. LinkedIn has tons of articles, Inc.com, Forbes.com. If you just Google, everybody can Google, you can find a lot of ways to continue to self-improve with your professional career. Another thing too is, again, being able to be open. Typically all jobs, you're going to have some kind of coach, some kind of manager, some kind of leader. So we have coaches and buddies at BKD. So the buddies are a little bit more laid back, more of your go-to for like, hey, I really want sushi. I'm not familiar with the area. Can you tell me where to go? But then your coaches meet with you quarterly. They go over all of your evaluations. They ask you how you're enjoying your job. Where do you see yourself in the next year, 5 years? What can I help you with? And I think those are the conversations, again, bringing your full self and trying to say, hey, I think I'm struggling here. And how can I get better at this? And more than likely, they've been there too. So I think taking their advice is huge. But again, I never thought I would need to continue to educate myself on recruiting, but I am. And it's not just recruiting, it's just being a professional, because again, the world's changing every day. Cell phones they do everything. They open the garage door now. That wasn't a thing 10 years ago. And so again, we do have to continuously be seeking out information to help us get better at the things that we know maybe we are lacking in. It's not always fun. Again, very, very aware that's not always fun. But again, I think trying to find that mentor, a coach, someone that's already been in your shoes, I think that's a huge piece. And then just doing some of that work on your own, reading those articles. More than likely something has been, or someone has felt the same way you have, and it's on a blog somewhere. So that's what I would recommend doing.
So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about cover letters. And I think this is a good segue into that, because a lot of essential skills you can communicate in a cover letter, right? So, but before we get to that, can you talk about what is a cover letter and why is it even important?
Yeah, so a cover letter is just a brief one page, just a few paragraph. It's really going to be job specific, and it's going to give a short introduction of who you are, a short reason of why you would be a good fit for this job, why you want this job. And so those are the few things that you want to get across. It's definitely, I'm not strong with my written communication. That is something I will 100% admit to this day, still not great at it. So a cover letter can take me a very long time because it's hard to kind of get all of that in there without going on and on. You have to make it short and sweet. So you want to kind of, again, you want to read the job description and you want to pretty much sell yourself in why you're going to be the best candidate, why you want this job, why your previous experience is the best for it. And that is what a cover letter is essentially.
And what are some of the big no-nos that you see all the time on cover letters that are like, oh my goodness, they shouldn't have put this on there, the don't do's?
So, well, and I will be honest with you, not a lot of companies require as many cover letters. So I don't ever get cover letters, to be very honest. But again, I'm in accounting. I'm in a very different industry where I'm hiring people that don't really have a ton of experience either. Now, previously, I definitely got a lot of cover letters. I think when you get too personal, not great. We do want people to be their full selves, but it's something where I don't need to know everything. Save that for, when you get hired and we go on lunches and happy hours and things like that. And so I think that would be one thing is when people get really, really personal. And then also you want to talk about your previous experience, but you don't want to make it very, very long and talk about how every single thing you've ever done is going to fit into this job. I would take, the top few things that are really going to shine in the role that you're wanting that you've done previously, put those in there. So those were two of the main things. The cover letter is really long. A recruiter's probably not going to read it. They're going to skim it and they're going to move on. So.
Yeah, I think you bring up some good points. And one thing I've noticed a lot is when students just have general cover letters that are just kind of going through the motions as to who it may concern. It's not specific to that role. So I like how you talked about having that job description and referring to that to build on that cover letter. I think that's important. And then one for me that I think is key is I see that students have very general and generic first liners. So they say, hi, my name is Joy Gringo. I'm a psychology major and I'm applying for this accounting job. And I just see it all the time. And for me, it's like, what can you do to draw that reader in and catch their attention to want to keep reading that resume, that cover letter, instead of it just blending in with everyone else. So I think those are important.
Yeah. And that is, thinking about it, that is how everybody starts their cover letter. It's probably how I start my cover letter as well. So that's a really great point. And so, if I were writing my cover letter today, I probably would Google that and I would do some research and read a little bit about, what could be different to make that first introduction, because that is going to be something that is eye-catching. You're very correct there.
Yeah, I call them a disruptive cover letter. So for me, I love starting with quotes. I'm really big on quotes and inspirational leaders. And like for me, one that I love using is he who has a why can bear almost anyhow. And for me, I love using that because then I say, my why is this, and this is why I'm passionate about this and how it links to the job. And, it's very unique and different. And I'm sure certain companies just want more of the formality and the simple, traditional cover letter, but I think it doesn't hurt to kind of think outside the box and try something different to stand out from the crowd.
Yeah, no, I think so as well. And again, accounting is very different with what I do now. My previous job, I definitely did have a ton of cover letters because it was a very different role. And so, I did see a lot of different ways, and a lot of people would do different graphics, and it was more of an artsy type of position. So that was always fun too. So, I always say, don't be afraid to put a pop of color on your resume or cover letter. Maybe not as much in accounting. It's pretty business focused. But I think that, using a pop of color maybe for your name or something, it's always really fun too.
Yeah, know your industry for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
In that scope, I do have a question though. So you mentioned that you don't really get cover letters in your role, but like, would you be open to if a student or someone was applying for any positions that you had open and sent in a cover letter anyway? I mean, unless you told them, yeah, but
No. I mean, people do. They do submit
Yeah.
their cover letters, and I do look at those for sure. Again, most people don't in the accounting industry, but yeah, absolutely. And it kind of gives me a little insight into who they are. You know, it is going to give me a lot more than the resume will. So I think it's really great to have that for sure. Again, not as many come through my door at this point, but I definitely do get some, and they're really fun to read. So
Cool. Chelsea, do you have any other questions?
I don't think so. But Kaylan, do you have any questions for us?
Yeah. So I wanted to just see kind of, what is kind of your biggest, I guess, pool of career seekers that you're seeing coming in? What majors is it that you're seeing the most of recently?
Well, it's summer, so
Well, true.
I know, we're like, oh,
well, I mean, of course,
Spring
like,
semester.
yeah.
oh yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I realistically, a lot of my, because I oversee all the business students, and then like everything else is like all of our machine and safety and like technology. Joy has some other technology as well. But I mean, I realistically see a lot of like the engineering students. I see a lot of construction management. Every once in a while, I'll see some business. But typically a lot of my business students, they just get it. And we've just got a solid program between all of our accounting and finance, and then whether they translate to other roles. But it's a good mix. Realistically, there is a good mix of students that come, at least for me.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I would say for me, a lot of the computer science, cybersecurity students come in. I think it also has to do with, because a lot of them are applying to larger corporations and businesses, and they understand that a lot of their resumes go through applicant tracking systems, and they want to make sure their documents are perfect. So I see a lot of those students. And I think it also depends on the partnerships that we have. So for myself, we are we work closely with the education department, and they're phenomenal with integrating our services in their curriculum, where their students they're required, we come in and see them, and they are set up for success by the time they graduate. They have jobs already. So it's just, yeah, super beneficial. So
yeah, no, that's fantastic. Yeah, well, and then just to kind of go back to the cover letter real quick, I just wanted to give like a tip for resume and cover letter, if that's okay.
of course, yeah.
For it.
And so what I would say, typically when you are looking for a position, you know about what position you're going to be going for. So I am a recruiter, but I'm also an event planner. I've done both. And then my role now, I currently do both. I do recruiting events, I do the culture events, but I also am a recruiter. So if I were to go looking for a job tomorrow, I am probably going to have two resumes, one that is going to be recruiting focused and one that is going to be event focused. I'm also going to have two cover letters that I spend a ton of time getting all of the details in, but that is going to give me my start. Now, every job I apply for, I need to manipulate that cover letter to that job position, but at least I have the basic body going into it of what they're probably looking for. Because if you think about it, recruiting and event planning, in my mind, it's not good. They're going to be very similar no matter where you go. So you would have kind of the base going for you with the resume and with the cover letter, and then you would just want to update it according to the job that you are applying for. But that will help you so much in the job search instead of trying to rewrite a cover letter every time. Again, don't submit the same cover letter to every company. I so many times have I seen a cover letter where the wrong company is in there, because they have just pushed it out. So do not put a company name in there, and say, like, make sure you save it correctly. Be very mindful of that. But again, don't recreate the wheel. Don't make it more difficult for yourself. When you know, in accounting, if you are doing a cover letter for accounting, you're probably going to be doing the same thing at all accounting jobs for the next year or two. And then you will just continue to manipulate that cover letter as your career grows. So that would be my advice. Don't recreate the wheel. Don't create more problems for yourself. And nobody has time for that. So that would be my advice.
I love that, because I think a lot of times we always tell students there's no such thing as a general cover letter and you have to tailor it to the jobs. And then they get so stressed, like, oh my gosh, so I have to make a new cover letter for each job. And it's like, no, it's based on industry, right? If you're going to be doing the same thing as an accountant, it's going to be all similar. Maybe just change reasons why you want to work at the company, minor things. But you're right. I think they overwhelm themselves with the thought of, oh my goodness, it's going to be so time consuming, but it doesn't have to be, right? So you bring up an excellent point there.
Yeah. So that was my one thing where I try to tell everyone. I actually just had a kind of coaching session with someone looking for a position the other day, talked about resume, talked about cover letters, talked about interviewing. And that was the thing. I was like, have different resumes for what you're looking for, have different cover letters. And so I just remember it took longer to write my cover letter than it would any part of the process of interviewing and applying. And finally I figured out, I can have multiple cover letters. And as I read jobs, I remember that one's pretty similar to this one. Let me go ahead and kind of tweak that.
Yeah.
So
I love that. That's some great advice.
Yeah.
And so tell us, I know that those are some great tips, and you probably look at resumes a lot, right? So what are some quick tips you can give us on how to have a good resume, or what it should have in it, aside from it being tailored to the job?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. The biggest thing is you don't want a lot of white space. So you want to probably fix your margins to where you're going out. So that's my number one thing. Also is great because you don't want it to be more than one page. I only have a one-page resume and I'm much older than college students. So I always say there's no reason for anyone in college to have more than one page. So that can give you a little bit more room when your margins are set out, but white space is a no-no. Another thing, putting your address is just, it's not a necessary anymore. City and state is fine. In college, especially because you're going to move probably every year anyways. I did. And then also too, it's a safety thing at this point. We don't want to be giving out that much personal information about ourselves when we send out our resume to so many people. I also would highly recommend putting your LinkedIn, customizing your LinkedIn and putting that on the top as well. So it'll be your phone number, maybe city and state, your LinkedIn, that's it. If you are going to be in an industry that's, kind of fun, like marketing or event planning, graphic design, especially, you can get really creative with your resume. You can put a ton of color, and again, you can Google so many fun. I had someone submit a video game resume to me, and it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen.
Cool. Wow.
So, so there's a lot of different ways you can do it. Now, again, I'm in an industry where it's pretty much white paper, black ink, very structured. But those are the few things there. Don't go too far into high school. If you are in college, I think it's okay to put a few high school things because it really can show. If you were the captain of a sports team, that shows a lot, leadership, multitasking, all of that. But after you've been in the workplace probably more than a year, want to probably get that off of there. And then putting skills, I think, is always really good as well, especially if you are going to be more of like computer science and technology. What are you specialized in? What kind of classes are you taking? Because I think that's a huge piece. So.
Yeah, I love how you brought up that fun resume, because I had one student who was in the entertainment industry, and he found a resume that someone made that was like a Spotify playlist. It was really, really interesting. Yeah. But I was like, yeah, that's great if you're working in the entertainment industry, but know your industry.
Yeah, no, you definitely need to know your industry for sure. Again, creative roles, obviously, they don't want a, white paper, black ink resume.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
want to see a little bit of what you're coming with. So I think that that's, a really great opportunity to work with color, work with shapes. I would say I would highly, highly, highly recommend not putting your photo on your resume.
Yes.
That might be very different than what some people say. But it's really hard for recruiters because at the end of the day, everyone has unconscious bias. That is human being, that is human nature. I don't want anything to be given to me to even make me think, oh, well, she is from this place and it looks like she's got blonde hair. I don't know. And so it's something that I would highly, highly, highly recommend not doing because no recruiter wants to know what you look like. They want to look at your resume and your skills. And that is a huge, huge thing that I've read a lot of things talking about, recruiters talking about how, please don't put your picture, please don't put your picture. It's almost like a legality thing at this point. So that would be another thing too. We want to look at your skill. We don't care how awesome your balayage or whatever that hairstyle is, or how cool your haircut is that you get at the salon. Guys have got really cool haircuts now. Like, oh, well, his hair is really proper, so probably he's organized. You don't want to even go down that road. So stay away from the photos. That would be a huge, huge thing, I would say.
You are just speaking our language. Everything you mentioned, those are like the things we hit on all the time. So we appreciate it. And to know that that is the stuff that recruiters and other people are looking for. And we're not just saying it to say it.
No, not at all. And again, it's something, we do unconscious bias training all the time. And so I don't want to know anything. I barely want to know where you live. I don't want to know anything like that. Oh, by that deli. And so, oh, they have great taste in food. I don't know. You just never know. And so the more I know about just what you do, that is the best. So
yeah. Well, thank you so much for that. We appreciate it so much. I know we are coming up at our time, so I want to give us a little time after to chat, but thank you again. We appreciate you and all the great knowledge and wisdom you've provided us today.
Yeah, no worries at all. And if you are counting, come see me. And I hope to be on campus soon.
Great. Thank you.